Hello, I'm back with another video, another topic, another round of topics actually this time. But actually, so to those who don't, well, you guys don't know. I tried to start this video 3 times. I get the case of the giggles. I'm sorry. Like literally how one started. It was just like, how, and then I just stopped because it's like that was too awkward, too awkward to continue. All right. Now I'm actually starting the video. It actually feels good. Before I begin, I just want to outright say, if you have the ability, um, this video is brought to you by the ability to vote. That's right, guys. I'm telling you guys to vote. If you guys can, you guys just vote. Like if you're old enough, is it safe to assume that almost everybody who plays this game is like 18 years old at this point? Because I don't remember. I only knew of like one guy who was less than an adult who played this game, and I don't think he does anymore. So, yada yada yada. Okay, but if you can vote, vote if you can, vote. I'm just gonna keep saying that, vote. With that out of the way, I'm introducing a new series? Question mark? I say question mark because I don't know if I'm gonna continue doing this or I'm gonna do this all the time, or I'm just gonna decide, hey, I'm gonna separate it into different videos. This video might be a little bit longer or shorter, depending on how far I breeze through shit. I feel like I could probably talk on and on and on about the topics I'm going with, but I'm just gonna call it Table Talk. Table Talk, FanZ Table Talk, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Probably, as you can see in the video, I basically just kind of lay out what I'm going to be talking about. Set 11.5, the blue style, and its current stance in the meta, and of course the freezing procedure, because Joey actually described the freezing process of how cards and how decks are going through. So I'm just kind of bringing that more into light. I don't know how many people saw this, and I feel like people should know more about it. So just kind of to look through it. I'm also testing out a new headset because my old one died. I think I already explained this, but just in case I didn't. So hopefully I sound decently. I'm trying not to talk too loud before it gets annoying to my uncle who's in the next room. So anyway, let's get started. First, I'm going to talk about set 11.5 in my stance. I haven't really hyper-reviewed these cards. I want to say that there were a lot of really good names for these. Like Saiyan Reinforcements was actually a really good name, and the picture I think is amazing. Bench this card. Okay, but I'll start off with black, and then just kind of go down the list of what they're presented in the FanZ, and then talking about Android 16's orange, new name card in the at the very bottom of the list, because I kind of want to talk about that a little bit differently. So let's just get started. Blackface Crunch. Lower your opponent's anger 2 levels, endurance 1, AC plus 4 stages. Hit. Search your life deck for a styled card that can attach to an MP. Place it into play attached. So here's what I think. Here's what I think about this card. I think it's safe to assume that endurance and anger lowering has just become a meme, if we're going off honesty. There's just lower, like, red Android twin beams, lower A player's anger 2 levels. Blue malicious blast, raise or lower A player's anger 2 levels, which is actually not bad. Does it have endurance? Damn, it does have endurance. But back to Blackface Crush. To me, the endurance and the anger lowering is a meme. I think every card in this game, or super viable cards in this game, have some form of endurance, one way or another. Someone made a post about negative endurance where they have to take more damage. I don't really like that. I don't like that idea. But you know, I really don't think that's that big a deal. But the hit is like the bread and butter here. Search your life deck for a star card that can attach to an MP and place it into play. Now, one thing that a lot of people are probably or might have missed is that it says NMP. It doesn't matter what MP. It could be your opponent's MP, it could be your MP. So if you want to punt, you can punt. If you want to capture, you can capture. So on and so forth. So, to me, this is a really, really good card overall. It's probably one of those things that people are probably going to be looking for to get rid of pretty quickly. Or block. The damage is ludicrous, especially for Boo. Probably for Boo. I'm not sure how much Broly would like this card, but it's pretty good. I think Nail likes this card, but I remember when I think it was around this time last year. Holy shit! When Nail came out, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, Nail! Where's Nail now? Nail doesn't exist, right?" So I think Black Face Crush is good in Deborah. I guess I can go on a list about how super good it is, but to me, it's either going to be used for Black Punt or Black Capture. It's unleashed bait, or maybe not unleashed bait, but it's unleashed, an unleashed battery hit, and then you attach, and then you get another attachment, and then you jump 2 levels, so, but it's okay. It's one of those cards that's like, yeah, people are probably going to run this in some form or another, but for the most part, it's one of those really, really good considerable options. It's kind of like Judgment Rush, I think, in the sense that it's a good option, but it isn't necessary. It's not a single add-in, which brings to the next card, Orange Sword Break. Okay, physical attack costing a stage. Allies cannot make actions or have damage redirected to them this combat. I just want to say this one thing. Orange does not need any new toys, and they got a new toy. So I want to make this perfectly clear. I have nothing against Orange as a whole. I just don't think that it should be as powerful as it is. And Orange Sword Break is one of those cards that's just like, well, you got a new toy. Hold on. Let me look something up real quick. I had this idea just in case. Style is extra. Okay. So, Saiyan trait, all your opponent's allies lose 3 stages to a minimum of 0. I'm not against this card, but I'm not for this card. I am against this card in the current state of Orange. I think if you're running Adept, I think Orange, Aggressive Sword Drill makes this card bonkers. I think Deborah makes this card bonkers. I think Goten makes this card bonkers. If there was an MP that made all drills styled, like all the drills in your life deck and all the drills on you control styled, this card would be bonkers with that kind of MP. I don't know why. They gave this card, like this card even exists in the first place. I think if you're running anything that has anything to do with sword cards, I mean, a lot of people are all like, oh, well, but Trunks isn't really that bad, but it's like, I still don't know why this card exists. It's a good card. It's a great card. It's just, it's like, why? Why did we give Orange another toy? And a lot of people are like, well, it's not that big a deal. Like, okay, so Trunks gets a boost. It's like, no. Everybody gets a boost. Orange gets a boost. So, I don't know. It's a good card. Damage is solid. Works great in Adept. Works great with Deborah. Works great with Aggressive Sword Drill. At this point, if I decide to go back to orange, I'm basically going to play Adept, and this card is going to be one of them. Just straight up. Like, I'll play Goten, I'll play Gohan. I might do set 4 Trunks, just to throw that out there. But this card to me is ridiculous. So, and then of course we have the 1 Endurance, because that's always a meme. That's the meme. Oh, speaking of memes, no, I'm joking. Well, I guess you can say, speaking of memes, 1 Endurance for Saiyan reinforcements. If your highest power level, parentheses, if your highest power level on your MP's level 4 is 500,000 or less, you may banish this card from your hand as an action to search your discard pile for a card that can attach to your MP and place into play attached. So, clench. What else? I guess you could say, no. I was going to say Saiyan Flip, but Saiyan Flip is kind of situational. So this is just clench bait. Physical attack, search your life deck for a Saiyan ally, Saiyan trait ally, and play it. 3 stages. Okay, so I'm trying to think who would maximize this, because there aren't a lot of 500k Saiyans, and almost every single one of them are villains. So this is clench bait. I think Raditz would really like this card, because for a card, no, it doesn't say style card, so if you top deck a offensive guard, you can use this card, or you mill a defensive guard. You can attach it with this card. There's like a comprehensive laundry list of shit that you can attach this card to, and it's really good. Search your life deck for an ally, for a Saiyan ally, and play it. There's a lot of potential from that. I know there is there's a card that's essentially this card, but I think it's like Saiyan Upward Kick or something. No, it's something kick. Forget it off the top of my head. Overhead kick. Okay, yeah, this is the one I'm looking for. So it's basically overhead kick, but it's more fuel for the fire. There's more damage to it, and it has the one endurance, assuming you have clench. So my stance is I like this card, but I really don't have any want to play Nappa or Saiyan Turles right now. So, or Saiyan Raditz for that matter. You know, I have no guarantee. So, yay, I do get to bitch about something this video. Yay, Bardock. I get to bitch about the Bardock MP. Like, devs, why? Like, Bardock is my favorite character. And the reason why he's my favorite character is his character story is actually very, very written very well. He doesn't have any, negative issues with him. A lot of people hate his Super Saiyan form. I like his Super Saiyan form. I think that was fan servicey as fuck, but I love it. I love it. But I never saw Bardock as the manipulator type. I saw Bardock as a brawler. I saw Bardock as a guy that you just want to fucking, who just wants to punch everything. No. But he's a guy with a chip on his shoulder, and the thing is, his speech, the entire point of his character is to show kind of the stupidity of Saiyans. If you really think about it, the blunt and brutishness of Saiyans, to the point where, Bardock, who knew there's futility, or could basically futilely fight Frieza, gets destroyed. But like, I never saw him as a manipulator. I'm always like, damn it, Chilled should have been Bardock. I would have, because Chilled is at least viable. If we're going off honesty, Chilled can be viable, but like, Bardock, well, he gets to see into the future, but it's like, yeah, he gets to see into the future by looking at his opponent's hand, wondering how they can dominate him. So, I guess you could say I am hoping for a level 1, or a new level 1, so you can play camp deck or a hero stack. I doubt they'll ever make one, because Bardock's story has kind of already been told. Unless, we get, like, a Broly movie Bardock, but, like, to me, that's not gonna happen. So, I don't know if you can make personality levels. Hold on. Let me verify that. Let me verify that. I don't think you can. Give me a second. No. So, but hey, but Nail got one, so why not Bardock? If Nail got a level 1, they just randomly threw out a Nail level 1, like, why can't Bardock? Why can't they give Bardock a new level 1? So, here's the hoping. It's probably futile, but here's the hoping. Back to Saiyan reinforcements. Again, clunch bait. I don't see it being super good outside of clench. So, yeah. Red. Now to red. Red, orange, twin beams. Limit to protect, parentheses, if your MP does not have Saiyan, when one of your effects requires you to lower your anger, you may banish this card from your discard pile to reduce that amount to 0. Energy attack costing 2 stages, lower opponent's anger 2 levels. Here's your meme. And then 5 life cards for 2 turns. So, to me, there isn't a whole lot of situations where I could see myself really using this card, except for the parentheses. As a non-parentheses card, it's pretty good. Lowering anger is always good. The damage is solid. Works well with Android 19, or not 19, excuse me, Android 18. I wish this card said, if your MP does not have Saiyan, when one of your effects requires you to, no, excuse me, if your MP does not have Saiyan, when entering combat, you may banish this card from your discard pile. All your attacks become styled, or like an additional Android trait, you may banish this card from your discard pile when entering combat to have all your attacks be considered styled this combat. I'd like that. I like that a lot. Helps Android 19 out. Kind of helps a lot of Androids out if you really think about it, but I can see why people wouldn't want to run this card. Wouldn't want to run this card. To me, this is one of those, do I run a card? Do I run cards in my deck that require me to lower my anger? And for the most part, I can't think of a reason other than forward stance drill. Now I'm thinking of Wheelo, Dr. Wheelo, the World Martial Arts Tournament deck I'm running, which is Amplified Wheelo. I'm thinking of forward stance drill, but just in that light, unless they just release new cards that require you to lower your anger, or you get Orange Medit. One of your effects, not one A effect. So you can't Orange Meditation it. So you can't Orange Meditation it. So it's there's probably a deck. There's probably a deck that just abuses the absolute shit out of this card, but I personally can't see it. So moving on to Namekian Assimilation. If this card is discarded by your hand, or from your hand by a mastery effect, stops a physical or energy attack in your opponent's next action in this combat. So it's a block. It's a block that you discard. So, Enlightened? I guess it's a boost to Enlightened. Give me a second. Quick googly search says discard a card. If you discarded a Dragon Ball. So basically what it does is it says, okay, so if you didn't discard a Dragon Ball but you discard this card, you can stop an energy attack. So it's okay, I get it. It's cool. I don't think Namekian Radiant discard function. Nope. And I know knowledge doesn't, so. Alright, power. Use when an opponent's setup, drill, ally, or attached card enters play. You may shuffle a Dragon Ball you own into your life deck to banish a setup, drill, ally, or attached card. Hey, Miguel made this one. Cool. It's there. It's good, I think. Get rid of checkup drill pretty quickly. Focuses on enlightens shuffling mechanic. To me, it doesn't have the endurance meme. To me, this card is okay. It's not good. It's not great. I can't really think of a way that I'd seriously use it other than just, oh hey, I have a card and I control a Dragon Ball. Whoop-de-doo. I guess you can say there's a benefit in knowledge mastery, but then again, knowledge doesn't have the discard function, so it's like, eh. It's yeah and eh at the same time. It's like, yeah, I can see where you're going with this, but overall, I'm not feeling it. Like, to me, this is not something that I would run now. Now, of course, I'm not a hard Namekian player. I kind of know how to play Namekian, but I'm not a hard Namekian player, and I can't tell you how Namekian runs, but, maybe this is one of those discussion in the comment section sort of thing. Blue Malicious Blast. Yes, I'm almost done ranting about set 11.5. Villains only. 2 endurance. This attack cannot be stopped by an event card. Raise or lower a player's anger 2 levels. Holy shit. Blue got a +2 anger card that has endurance. Son of a gun. They did it. They fucking did it. Oh, of course, it's only villains, but you get the idea. I feel like villains only is kind of necessary because screw Goku, right? Goku does not need a 7 life card attacks that can't be stopped by anything, but an event card can't be stopped by event cards and raises his anger. So, yay. Damage 5 life cards. Hit. Cards in your discard pile are considered styled this turn. So, Blue Vegeta? There's probably a card I'm not thinking of, where discard, or like, that really matters, hardcore blue. I just can't think of anything right now. 3 stages, 2. Quite a drain. Okay. Now we move to the piece de resistance. Android 16's Precaution. So, Android 16. Why Android 16? What does Android 16 get VTP when we don't? Oh yeah, because it's not that big a deal. So, it's VTP, but for Android 16 only. Now, I don't know the Android 16. Let me get educated real quick. Android 16 MP. No, I don't want to look up phones. Thank you very much. There we go. So, if I'm not mistaken, place a non-personality card that is alignment restricted. Well, non-personality, so that doesn't work. Because level 2 is meh. Because that is alignment, non-personality card. That is, well, actually, non-personality card would mean, I'm thinking named cards, but personality cards are like villain, like allies and shit. So you can kind of loop this. You can loop it with level 2. So dominance, but isn't the new Android 16 raise a layer, you may rejuvenate a card that is alignment restriction in your discard pile. Hit. If you have changed levels this combat, you may search your discard pile for an alignment restricted card and place it into your hand. It's kind of weird. Is that the one I run? Is that the one I'm running? Right one I'm reading? I'd imagine so. I'd imagine so. Um, so let's go to this level 2, because you get rejuvenation, quote unquote, and then you draw a card. So that's pretty good. Your attacks do a +1 life card damage. Use when entering combat. Place a card from your hand to the bottom of your life deck. Search your life deck for an ally restricted card, alignment restricted card, and place it into your hand. If it was a setup and draw, you may place it into play. Your attacks do +2 life cards whenever you play. Here's only card. Rejuvenate 2 when you play villain's card. Banish the top 2. So I'd say level 2 is the best way to go about this if you're really going off honesty, because dominance, you dominance to 2. Cards without endurance gain endurance 1, so now you have endurance up the ass. And if you really want to use this, now I'm only focusing on just this one card. I'm not thinking about like other things that you can do with this, but it's a free rejuvenation, so you use it when you enter combat. You dominance your opponent. You have one card in hand. You dominance, or your opponent, or you play this card, then you dominance to level 2, and then you use it rejuvenate, quote unquote, precaution, and then you search, and then you draw a card. So, or you don't search, you draw a card. So it's like, I can kind of see like something getting out of this, but like Android 16 wasn't super good. Like, it's not a bad loot, and it's not a bad loop as long as you can stay on level 2, and with, I think it was Blue Rivalry Drill, you can kind of stay there. So it's like, I can kind of go. I can see this working. I'm not 100% convinced that it's the best option, and people are all like, ha ha ha, Android 16 wasn't good even when he had VTP. It's like, well, different circumstances. I think it can be good. I'm not 100% convinced that it's super good, and will be taught tier 1, but I'm not convinced that it's super bad. So, overall, 11.5 gave us a lot of good flavorful options. I don't see them being super necessary in all decks, maybe unless you're playing Android 16, which makes some good side grades, except for maybe Orange Sword Break. That might be a little bit like a almost an auto include for a handful of reasons, but depending on what MP you have, I guess. I mean, if you're playing Go 10 or whatever. But besides all that, sub 11.5, a lot of good flavorful options, a lot of good cards, but we're not seeing, like, we're not going to be seeing them in play. It's not, none of these cards to me scream blue stylish pose. So, with that being said, we're talking about blue. The blue style. Ooh. So I'll explain the blue style, just in my own words, in like the most basic description possible. And that is, blue is not a style that is banked around determining the meta. It's not a meta-defining style. It is a anti-meta. It is the anti-meta option. See, here's my stance, and here's my stance and why I believe this. The anti-meta option has always been around, but specifically for blue, the anti-meta option exists for the simple sake of, or excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Blue as a style works to fight against the current meta. You might be thinking, well, that's not right, because blue tag team Vegeta got second in Tournament of Power. I'll explain that in a second, but, well, actually I can explain that now. Vegeta won. Blue tag team Vegeta was a great example of the anti-meta. When you play blue tag team Vegeta, what do you really think that you should play? You know, like, what do you think you should play? You should probably play Tenshinhan, Chaozu, Yamcha, those cards that generate those extra freestyle attacks, so you know you can capitalize on Vegeta's level 1 doing increased damage, and then should you level, you can up that damage. But you know, should you level, you can up that damage and make them impossible to defend. You know, that sort of thing. You know, right? So whenever you look at Blue Tag Team Vegeta, you can kind of come up with your own conclusions of what you would think you would run, right? Well, Kevin Dennis did the exact opposite. He didn't run the standard run-of-the-mill allies. Now, I didn't watch the entire match. I caught like the second half, so I don't know 100%. I don't know his deck list 100%. I could probably educate myself right now. Just give me a second here. It's Conflict, Piccolo, Trunks, Goku. This point I'm just kind of... Here you go. Blue Tag Team Mastery. You're in Gohan, Krillin, Dr. Brief, Bulma. I think this is it, right? Yeah, Master Roshi, Mr. Popo, and yeah. So you look at Vegeta. Okay. We look at Vegeta. We look at Tag Team Vegeta. And what do you think most people run in a Tag Team Vegeta deck? What do you think they run in a Tag Team Vegeta deck? You think they'd run Chaozu, Yamcha, Tien? I just laid this out. Kevin didn't. He ran Bulma, which is typical. He ran Bulma, right? He ran Bulma. That's a pretty good strategy. Bulma into Bulma, and then you get rid of one of their key cards, and then they just kind of sit there, right? But he ran Dr. Brief. Dr. Brief is really, really good. You draw a card. He ran Gohan, and it's like, why? But then you look at like Gohan, and you look at Master Roshi, and you look at Mr. Popo and Yajirobe. Like, why did he run those over those that energy beats? Because he was looking at what the meta was. Okay. So, Gohan. Let's look at Gohan ally. I really should have been more prepared for this, but whatever. Gohan ally. Whenever a player raises his anger, change that amount to 1. So there are a lot of cards that increase level by 2, and that slows down the MPBV process. Krillin. Rejuvenate step, destroy a drill. That's a free drill every time. Master Roshi. I'm sorry. I need to be more educated. Master Roshi. Players cannot use card effects that search a player's life deck. You don't know how many. You don't know how many times. You might not account how many times we search our life decks for anything. I play a card. I play After Image Technique in Wheelo, and that searches my life deck. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that even shuts down Blue Tag Team. That even shuts down cards like Overpowering Attack and so on. Mr. Popo, you can't. Your first rejuvenation is optional. If your opponent rejuvenates, when a player rejuvenates, their opponent may draw a card. Do you want to get that? Do you want to +1 your opponent by rejuvenating X cards? Because red is like a rejuvenation machine. Now with Controlled Anger Drill and Duck, Namekian was ridiculously good. There's 100 ways to rejuvenate in this game. It's like there are 100 ways to lower anger. There's 100 ways to rejuvenate in this game. Yajirobe, I think that is you can't play an ally. Can't play I think that's you can't play a setup. Players cannot use setups unless they performed attack from their hand this turn. So we have all of these cards, right? Then they're just preventing them from using anything. Your players cannot use setups unless they performed attack from their hand this turn. So when entering combat, your when entering combat cards, your VTP, your other setups, your dominance, your this, your that all shuts down because you have to attack first. And you can't attack when entering combat. There is no MP or ally that says if you enter combat, you can't when used when entering combat, you've considered that you've attacked this turn. You know, you can't. There is no MP that says that, and that just straight doesn't exist. So it's like we have all of these. We have this comprehensive laundry list of just shit that is just like, well, why are you running this? You know, you got your standard, you got your ideas. Well, why are you running Mr. Popo? Don't you rejuvenate like crazy too? Yeah, I do. But you know what? I'd rather +1. You know, I'd rather get the +1. You know, getting the +1 is better than rejuvenating. You know, because the rejuvenation process is optional. The majority of the rejuvenation process is optional. Like, but do you seriously want to rejuve 4 and allow me to get a +1 that might do more damage, that might hurt you more than help you? And the answer is no. Nobody wants to deal with that shit. Of course, you know, that's why it got second, in my opinion. You know, if you seriously wanted to go off just the basic ideas, like blue stylish pose, getting those crits off to prevent Dragon Ball victory and to, you know, get rid of anger gain and just to nuke allies. We have, you know, we have all these different, you know, these cards, but but the big focus is not what's going on with the attacks, because Vegeta is very, very, excuse me, Vegeta is very, very straightforward. You run freestyle attacks. You can kind of throw him in anything, and he's at least competent in it, right? Red Amplified is probably the one exception. Maybe, no, actually there are a lot of exceptions, but you can kind of throw him in anything, and it would be at least okay. But why Blue Tag Team? Because Blue Tag Team gives him this package, this ally package, this anti-meta ally package here, that prevents his opponent from really doing anything. You know, MPVV heavy decks are kind of countered somewhat by Blue Protective. You know, if the game was speed MPPV, we'd have 100 frickin', you know, Blue Protective would be the anti-MPPV option. You know, Orange Meditation got nerfed. You can't use Orange Meditation and just beat the shit out of your opponent. You don't have really any other option, and nothing lowers anger like Blue, you know. Blue Resourceful, if the game was determined by how much actions you could generate in the late game, Blue Resourceful would be very, very good, you know. I guess you could say, the question is, or not the question, but the argument is, if you use Blue, you're probably going to run an anti-meta option, you know, unless the MP you're running is a very, very active MP. So what do I mean by that? Resourceful Broly. Let's throw Resourceful Broly out there. Resourceful Broly is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But Broly is a very, very active MP. So he wants to fight, right? He wants to fight. He wants to get into combat. He wants to do that kind of damage. He wants to, you know, he wants to Blue Resourceful the fuck out of everybody, right? He wants to beat the shit out of everybody. But, so it's like, well, naturally, Broly is good for Blue, right? Well, yeah, but that's an MP changing the style itself. You know, the style is exactly the same. The MP kind of dictates that. Because I could tell you, I could sit down and be like, oh yeah, so Blue Resolute, let's play Frieza. Let's play Frieza on Blue Resolute. You know, Blue Resolute is ridiculously good. You're not running Blue Resolute because Blue is good. You're running Blue Resolute because Frieza is good in Blue. I guess you can kind of, that's kind of like the big thing. Like, you're not running Orange because Orange is good. You're running Orange because Orange Android 20 is good. Because Android 20 is good in Orange. You know, if we were to blast to the past, fucking set 4, you know, Android 20, Orange is good because Android 20 is good in Orange. The same thing can be said for Blue. You know, Blue is good, or Blue Resolute, Frieza is good because Frieza is good in Blue Resolute. Not because Blue is good. because blue, or because Frieza is good in blue resolute. I can go on and on and on. Blue resourceful Broly is only good because Broly is good and resourceful. Now those people are like, well, isn't that the same for a lot of allies? Not necessarily. Yes, well, yes and no. See, Dr. Wheelo is very, very good in black, but he can be good in red. In red, does that mean red is, does that mean that, blue is good because of Wheelo? No, it's because Wheelo is good in blue because Wheelo's good in blue. It's not blue's good all around and Wheelo just complements it. So, I also admitted that I don't know how to play blue, but I don't know how to play blue in a conceptual level. I don't know how to play. I know how to play it in an analysis, and to me, the analysis becomes blue is a good anti-meta option. Blue is a very good anti-meta option, and it is the go-to anti-meta option. Blue Protective Gohan. Kevin Dennis says Blue Protective Gohan. I forget what that one. What that one overall. One, because it was a good anti-meta option. There was a lot of anger decks. This is when Retribution was still a thing. And the ability to shut down the opponent was great. But even then, it wasn't... Blue did not carry... Or I guess it did in that event, but overall, Blue is good. But it's not. But the reason why it wins is not because the blue style is good. It's very, very reliant on the mastery. It's very, very reliant on what the MP is doing. It's very, very reliant on what it's attempting to accomplish. So, my stance: blue is an anti-meta option. It's not the meta. It counters the meta. If there were a mastery that banished drills, when your opponent plays a drill, your opponent can't mill cards off the top of your life deck, and orange was just rampant, then that mastery, or that blue card, or whatever the fuck, would be the immediate counter. If they made it a blue drill that, if your opponent rejuvenates a drill, choose one drill they control and banish it, or something like that. Or if one of your opponent's drills leave play, choose another drill and banish it. Then blue would be the anti-orange meta. So orange was running around being like, ha ha ha, you can't stop us, because we have way too much damage and destroying shit. And it's like, oh, blue now has this card that gets this ability. It's like, oh fuck, orange disappears. Blue, anti-meta option. Why aren't people playing more of it? Because the meta doesn't call for it. There isn't one thing that's completely dominating the game, in the same way that Broly does. In the same way that Broly does. Look at Blue Protective Future Gohan, during a Broly era, that's ridiculously good because now you're not jumping, the anger isn't ridiculously high. You're shutting off Broly, so he's not doing that unpreventable oomphed damage, and then you got that extra block because of Blue Protective, but you're also not. But the meta isn't like that right now, so no one's calling it, so it doesn't call for it. And even Blue Tag Team Vegeta was still as good as it was, still doesn't need it right now. It's not necessary right the fuck now. So people aren't running it. People aren't running it because there's no point in running it. Okay, so that's my stance on blue. Anti-meta option. The reason why people aren't playing more of it is because there's no point in playing more of it. So, now we move on to the final topic of the video. I say the future at the bottom. I'm just gonna keep that there. Table talk blank 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 and the future question mark. So we now have the freezing procedure. This is before the. I think I said this already, but this is something that people should probably be knowing a little bit more about to kind of go off of in order to determine, how the things are getting nerfed, right? So, this is from Joey himself. I'll probably snip this picture and then post it in the description of this video, so you can create it yourself, just in case, you know, he decides to remove it or whatever. So this is coming from Joey DiCarlo. I'm totally screwed up his name there. Sorry. 1. Something is dominating OP organized events. We run it through a testing gauntlet. Depending on our testing results, it gets hit or it doesn't get hit. What that means. So he verifies what that means is, in another comment, he says, there's 5 people involved. Each dev has a +1, essentially. I honestly don't know what that means. +1, essentially. I honestly don't know what that means. I think somebody else does. Oh, each developer is essentially approved a +1 as a testing companion in case another dev isn't available for testing at that time. So they get a +1. So there's a lot of people. Basically a lot of people testing it. Sorry, I didn't know that. The base is super verbal. I think if the player base is super verbal about something, we take a look at it and run it through the testing gauntlet. However, in the case of, let's say, combative Kami and Trunks, we destroy these decks in the gauntlet. So basically what they're doing is they're like, okay, so if a card is overpowered, let's beat it to shit. And if it is overpowered, we'll do something about it. Blue focusing drill, you know, orange focusing drill, for example. And he explains that in another comment, and I'll kind of explain. 3. We take notes on cards throughout the OP season, off season, that require changes soon or down the road. We implement these changes via the CRD at certain points throughout the year. I suppose players have not caught on when that is. Those times are set release, start of the OP, mid OP, and end of OP. So basically, he's like, okay, so it's not just, you know, a card is brought to our attention, should we nerf it? It's, a card is brought to our attention, let's see how it plays out. Sort of go. Okay, I saw 4, and this is just an example. I saw someone bring up Tactical Drill. Tactical Drill was hit for the similar reason the Focusing Drill was hit. It's moving away from that type of constant in favor of a reaction, i.e. attraction drill. So I feel like after the release of, I don't remember how long that was, but I feel like if they're like, okay, freeze Focusing Drill in the Retribution CRD, whatever that was, and then release Attraction Drill, or, you know, freeze it first and then bring out Attraction Drill. Look for Attraction Drill replacement for Tactical at some point in the future. 5. Retro is an echo chamber and is really hard to use some of its actual data. I still see people saying unidentified testing group. It's pretty clear who has been involved in development since the get-go. I think that Dead Zone even had listed at some point. Each developer is essentially a +1, approved as a testing companion in case another dev isn't available for testing at that time. I do agree on the echo chamber portion. So I made a meme about this, and it basically goes around in the circle. People talk about something, they get pissed off about it, and then everybody just kind of gets pissed off about it. So instead of anything changing, nothing changes, you know, people's outlooks don't change, everyone just kind of gets, you know, butthurt for nothing, then people start joking about it because now the topic is passed, everyone just kind of moves on, right? And it just waits for the topic to come back up again. This was the exact same way during Unleashed. So yes, it is an echo chamber. Someone talks shit, someone will be right there to talk shit. I talked shit about Orange, you know. Orange is the new Black Devious. Everybody hated Orange, you know, in the same way that they hated Black Devious. So, yes, Retro is an echo chamber. I feel like if a handful of people... See, and I know why people do this. And I know why people do it a lot. Because they want to say something. They want to say something. You know, I want to say something. I want to talk shit about Orange too. So I'm gonna. And they do. And it's not really that good. It's not good at all. So overpowering attack had it coming. That card was, as well as VTP, have been on our watch list for since set one. Basically, look for replacement OPA in the future that isn't attached to a attack for 5 life. So basically, what they're saying is we're gonna get rid of the cards that are hard advantages and replace them with cards that are essentially the quote unquote same thing, but with a cost. So, which to me, I believe that this is a very very good explanation as to how the series goes. But I have one concern. This is my one concern. Do they feel the need to freeze cards even if those cards essentially did nothing? Basically what I'm trying to say is, let's say they like an OP goes out and they're like, okay, well these cards were really really good, so we're gonna freeze these cards. Like, do they feel the need to freeze cards is basically the question I'm asking, because I came from Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! Had this thing where they would freeze cards every 3 months. So there would be this, or they ban cards or limit cards or whatever every 3 months, and they never did. And it wasn't because they wanted to balance the game, because if we're going off honesty, a game like this, there's a lot of unbalanced shit and there's a lot of balanced shit. You know, there's definitely a lot more balanced shit than unbalanced shit, right? The question I have is, okay, so let's say, out of the blue, Red Amplified Wheelo wins an OP event. You know, it wins a Kai or something like that. Are they gonna look at like Wheelo and go, we need to get rid of Red Channel Surfing Drill, because Red Channel Surfing Drill was obviously a winner, like a winning card in that factor. Now, Channel Surfing Drill is an amazing card, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really need to be nerfed. Does it really need to be frozen? No. Why is it so the question is like, do the devs think we need to freeze cards that are causing problems? And this card that was a clear factor in the win of this OP event. Do we need to freeze? Should we freeze this card? My answer is no. I personally don't think so. I don't want them to freeze cards left and right because they won an event. Like, oh, blankety blank. Oh, this one deck won an event. But orange. Not orange. Let's go with Saiyan. And Saiyan. Menace was obviously the reason that they won. We should freeze Saiyan Menace because it's obviously powerful. I don't want them to do that. I straight don't want them to do that. I want them to look at a card, look at the foundations of a deck and say, is this overpowered? And when it's like, okay, yeah, it was pretty good, but it wasn't overpowered, then they're like, okay, fine. I want the freezing list to be used as a method of fixing the game, balancing the game. Balance. That's always been my influence. Just balance the freaking game. Don't nerf it. Don't banish it. Just balance it. So that's my one concern. Just, I hope this game isn't just freeze everything. I seriously hope it's not like that at all. And I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it ever will be. I don't think it ever will be. But in the instance that it is, in the instance that they do, I'd be kind of scared, because I don't want to develop a strategy only to find out that whatever card that was key in my strategy gets frozen or limited to 1 or whatever, and it's just like, eh. So, just my stance, my fear. In review, just kind of general purpose. Side limit 0.5. Good. Thrilling, nice. You know, nice, nice. Not thrilling, but nice. Blue, anti-meta option. Reason why people aren't playing it more is because the meta doesn't call for it. The freezing procedure is okay, just don't freeze cards that really don't deserve it, and the future is always a mystery. Um, so that's just the general in review. My name is Joey, and I'll see you guys later.